Ever since last summer, I've been contemplating my feelings on a Game of Thrones sequel. The idea of a Jon Snow sequel seems like a bad idea. Or at least that's what I thought when it was first announced. And then I thought of what a Jon Snow sequel should do if it was made. And even though I still feel uneasy about the direction that it could go in, I kind of forgot something. It really can't get any worse, can it? Well, I mean, they did build up this rivalry between the Night King and Jon Snow, but never really paid that off. They did suggest that he just might be the prince who is promised, but they never really paid that off either. I guess it's Arya and brown eyes, green eyes, and then blue.
Brown eyes, blue eyes, green eyes. Eyes you'll shut forever.
Maybe? I don't remember how it was supposed to go. Oh well, was it a love story? What exactly happened there? Look, my point is, this show, this Jon Snow sequel idea sounds really absurd. I think it's inherently forced to be built off of a shaky foundation at best. And yet, I think I actually still want this to happen. Am I crazy? I don't know. But my biggest issue with Game of Thrones all led back to my feelings on how Jon Snow was handled. Don't get me wrong, there's various issues that I'm sure many of you had with the Game of Thrones finale, and those are totally justified. I probably agree with most, if not all of those complaints. But my complaint was I was obsessed over the Jon Snow story in the books. I actually loved the story that they told up until season 5 for the most part in the show. It obviously took on a much different direction than the books, and that was fine by me, because I still had a good time. But then he was killed.
For the watch.
And of all the things that happened throughout the rest of the show, that was what I thought would have been the crossroads for the character. Even though you could argue that he had come to that point when he began sympathizing with the wildlings, but we watched him die. Then we watched him be resurrected a whole 2 episodes later, and yet I feel like the actual character was never truly revived. I mean, yes, a lot of plot was thrown at Jon Snow. A lot of intriguing concepts were built around the character after season 5. Yet, the character never really seemed to change. His most interesting attribute before his death was his constant confrontation with his original worldview when he came to the Wall, and how that evolved over time with experience and new perspective. In the books, you actually get to read some inner monologues that has him contemplating his vows and perspectives and how he feels towards the wildlings versus, his old worldview. And up until season 6, the show allowed that to be a big part of the character because the plot's journey and the character's journey both felt to be in harmony up until that point before he was killed. However, once he's brought back to life, he dismisses himself from the Night's Watch. Well, I mean, I guess, not really. Because, he does actually just stay at the Wall until Sansa arrives. Not really sure what he was doing. His watch has ended, but, he just needed somewhere to stay. I don't know. He is convinced to take on Ramsay for the Battle of the Bastards, which regardless of how impractical their battle plans are, it's still very compelling visually. He's named King of the North. He goes on to meet Daenerys. He goes beyond the Wall on a really stupid mission thanks to the idea brought to you by another completely butchered character. He, for some reason, concedes that Daenerys is his queen immediately after she agrees to fight the Night King. Is this for love? Because they've had this unspoken bond for the last few episodes, I guess? I guess I must have missed it. A couple awkward glances here and there doesn't really seem like a love story to me, at least not a believable one. But whatever, it doesn't matter. He doesn't want it.
I don't want it.
He doesn't have any interesting opinion on any of the things that are happening to him. He doesn't seem to be a person. All these things happen to him, but he has no logical, realistic response to any of it. Anyway, they travel north, Arya steals his big showdown with the Night King, they go south, Daenerys goes mad, he kills her, They have a sitcom right in the middle of the series finale, and then Jon goes back to the wall and roll credits. I know it sounds like a few interesting things happen to Jon, and they do, or they happen around him, and all the best scenes, like telling Arya and Sansa he's the heir to the Iron Throne, well, we're gonna have that take place off screen. But his character just stopped developing after season 5, and maybe you disagree, but there's all these interesting things that occur to him or around him, and his response is just the most bland experience for audiences. His character does nothing interesting, or he does something illogical instead. You know, like telling Cersei that he's already pledged his allegiance to Daenerys when they're trying to make a pact. I don't understand. What the hell? They make him kind of dumb. So that's my opinion on Jon Snow. But why am I entertaining this new sequel show? Well, because I still love the character, and after seeing the franchise move on to House of the Dragon and do well with a new creative direction after D&D, I started thinking that maybe, just maybe, this character that was so beloved might actually be able to be saved if in the right creative hands. The fact that the show is in development must mean that somewhere out there, right now, someone has to have a good idea, right? Maybe and maybe not. And to be fair, it's going to probably happen whether I want it to or not. So here's what I'm hoping for. They give us real development for the character, something that somehow cleans up the final few seasons of Game of Thrones. Pretty tall task, but it might be able to be done. Or not, I don't know. I think the way House of the Dragon has hammered it home that prophecy is significant, and how Game of Thrones cemented that Jon is truly a song of ice and fire, as in half Targaryen and half Stark, perhaps the fight against the others or the White Walkers is not truly over, which means that the prince that was promised, Azor Ahai, has yet to be fulfilled, and then maybe, somehow, some way, Bran is actually the Night King who perfectly manipulated the realm into anointing him king. And then we get the showdown we all should have gotten all along, which is Jon versus the Night King. Finally, takes place. Wouldn't that be nice? Since they built up to it 8
fucking
seasons. Sure, we're going to need some retconning probably, and we'll need Jon to stop being an emo lead singer from your local church's band who only recites the same few lines.
I don't want it.
And then he can actually start kicking some ass and using dialogue that demonstrates he's actually a real person. That would be a dream come true for this franchise, considering where it left off. Or we could just beg and plead with HBO to leave well enough alone and to focus on something far more interesting like Robert's Rebellion. Because the reality is, most critical thinking people can reasonably accept that creating a sequel to Game of Thrones after season 8 is an insult to how good the show truly was through its first 4 seasons. Look, House of the Dragon did pretty well so far without D&D's involvement, and I'm starting to wonder, just maybe, extending Game of Thrones without their creative direction is really all this franchise needed to get back on track. Time will tell. Hopefully you guys found this little rant enjoyable, and if you did, please leave the video a like and make sure you are subscribed for more videos just like this, or kinda like this, or maybe nothing like this. I don't know. Did any of you guys watch The Last of Us yet? Okay, well that's it. Thanks for watching!